like to call to order the Swain County Board of Commissioners work session, August 25th, 6 o'clock. Gunner, if you'll lead us in the pledge, please, sir.
Face the colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As you see that we are, Mr. Bushyhead could not be here tonight, so I'll be chairing the meeting. And I guess we're ready to move on to our first item of discussion, and that is the Swain County Health Department. Trish, I believe you're going to bring that to us.
Thank you. Evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
So last month you received an email with the access to our report, and then again last week. So just a reminder that these are actually digital live documents. Can be found on our website. The hard copies that you see, which obviously don't look as well, their PDFs don't come out as well, but they are at the library, and we will give them, anyone who comes into the health department, a copy. So the community health assessment was completed. That's part of this document, and the state wants us to have it all in one, which is nice. The community improvement plan is also part of this. So those are the programs that we've come up to go toward those priorities. And then the SOTCH, which is the State of the County Health Report, which is a yearly report, but because it's live, I'm keeping it updated monthly with what's going on toward our programs. And then anything at the bottom, extra things that we're doing in the county and emerging issues in the county. So I sent those to you digitally so you could take a look at them, so it wasn't taking up too much of your time this evening, and just wanted to see if you guys had any questions.
Any questions?
I did look through that and had a couple questions written down, but I didn't. They're not in my notebook.
You can
and that's been about 3 weeks
email
ago,
them to me.
Okay,
So
good.
feel free, if ever, and I also send them ahead of time, so if you are looking through them,
Right.
you can always just email me those questions.
Okay.
Happy to answer them through email if need be. Not a problem.
Still a little, well, again, if you're not tech savvy, it's still a little hard to navigate for me.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the state has, so it used to be with WNC Healthy Impact that we did this to, and the state has actually, they're making every county use this. So that's the video that was sent with it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way, so we have posted that on our Facebook page to help people guide them through using the video as well. It does make it a little difficult to navigate.
Help, but it's still a little.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, unless you're really sharp in the
Right.
computer world, I think it's a little hard to navigate.
And I wish we could change that to make it a little bit more user savvy, but unfortunately that's the state's mandate.
Any other questions? Is there anything in particular that you want to point out, like one thing that stands out to you, or a couple things?
No, not really. I mean, cancer is still kind of our number one, which is hard to, for morbidity. It's hard to come up with programming for that. But in there, as one of our extra things that we're doing, the health department's been having the mammogram bus come twice a year for breast cancer, which has been great. I've been searching for other screenings like that we could possibly do, but just haven't found anything. But we will keep our eye out for that. But that's a little difficult to do any programming. I think we're doing pretty good with chronic disease, doing Swain summits. That seems to be continuing to be successful. And then the coalition has been doing, as you can see, we received several grants with the coalition, and they did several campaigns with lock boxes. And you've seen the billboard with the meth, alcohol, and lock boxes. So that's been a really good thing as far as the programs reaching some of those goals that we've been wanting to.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you. Thank you, Trish.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you. The next thing we have on our agenda is Hope Springs Eternal, and I believe Aaron Bridges is going to present that to us. Aaron?
Well, good evening, and I appreciate your time. And I am Aaron Bridges. I'm the director of Hope Springs Eternal. Pastor Marty was not going to be able to be with me this evening. Pastor Marty Presley, pastor of the Bryson City Church of God, is the actual founder. But I'm the executive director, and we opened up Hope Springs about 2.5 years ago, a little over that, I guess it is now. We're going on our 3rd year of operation. And as director, I have the opportunity to help men to do what we call our second step, as far as once they're coming off of drugs and alcohol. So I brought one of our former residents, Richard, if you want to stand real quick, just as an example of somebody who came through the program. He's in the community doing well. He's active in the Bryson City Church of God, and also works, pays taxes, all those good things that somebody should do. Which is sort of what we help them do to get reacclimated back into society. Let me hand this out. The reason we're specifically here this evening, we have been asked to host originally we were going to call it just a recovery rally, and we decided a better name would be the Health, Hope, and Recovery Rally. And I've got 2 forms I'm going to hand out, and just to give you a general idea of what this is about. It's to bring awareness to the community regarding resources that people either in addiction or coming out of addiction have. And so Ms. Kay McConnell is sort of heading it up, and she's one of our board members, and she had asked us if we would be interested in hosting it, so we are. So specifically why we're here this evening is trying to get funds from the county to assist. Kevin, I'll get yours apart in a second.
That's all right.
I'm on 3 minutes, I'm going to be pushing. But,
Hey, you have longer than 3 minutes, Aaron. You're on the agenda. I noticed you had signed the sheet.
Yes, sir, I was.
That's for public comment. So you're on the agenda. You
all
have more
right.
than,
I'm a long-winded preacher anyway,
Yeah.
also pastor at Cherokee Church of God, so
you
try not
have
to.
more than 3 minutes.
But anyway, why we're here this evening is just to give you guys a general introduction to Hope Springs, what we're doing in the community, and what we want to do through this rally. We have several businesses that have already committed to helping or have already financially helped with the financial obligations that this rally are going to take. I'm not sure if... No, I don't guess that I printed off one of these because I just saw this myself. Kay got it to me earlier. What other businesses have assisted. We're still waiting back for an answer from the Chamber of Commerce and a couple other places. But what we desire to do on this rally, September the 24th, is to just bring awareness to the community about options that people have that are in addiction or coming out of addiction, and also with mental health and different other health needs that people in the community have. And so as such, we're here this evening to ask for assistance with that, and just to tell you a little bit about what we do. And we house up to 12 guys there at Hope Springs on Cold Springs Road. And the entry requirements, men have to have completed at least a 90-day program prior to coming to us. So our motto is we're the second step for those who need a second chance. So the guys who come to us already have a little bit of recovery time underway, and so we help them to get reacclimated back into society. And with that being said, I'll also give y'all a flyer, but I wasn't sure exactly how much Miss Kay had spoken with any of you guys about that. She could probably give you more specifics on what the various financial needs are and what it's going towards. I know we've had to purchase banners and we decided not to have a food truck. The reason being we're going to have free hot dogs that are going to be distributed then, the barbecue wagon, which my wife works at the barbecue wagon. They're donating that. And so we decided against having a food truck there. Since we're going to be giving away food on one side, it would seem to be competition there. So This is going to be a rain or shine event. Either way, it's going to be on September the 24th, and it's going to be downtown there at the Riverfront Park. So hopefully we'll just bring some awareness to the community for those who are maybe struggling with these specific issues. Unfortunately, addiction is an epidemic no matter where you're at, and I'm sure every person under the sound of my voice this evening has somebody either in their family or somebody that they're familiar with that is dealing with addiction problems. And so we want people to know there are options for them to get treatment, to get help. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding Hope Springs or regarding the rally. I'll try to the best of my ability to answer any questions regarding the rally.
Any questions? Floor is open, gentlemen. You have any questions?
I have one question.
Yes,
about
sir.
Hope Springs.
Yes, sir.
Do we have lots of local people make it to that step?
No. Well, I'll tell you the problem. And just being completely honest about it, typically when people go to get help from drugs and alcohol, they go somewhere outside of where they're from. We recommend people to, if they can relocate and start over, that's probably the best option. So in other words, most of the guys that are coming to us are not necessarily local. We have had local guys, but most of them are completing programs elsewhere and then coming here. Since the requirement is they do have to complete a first step program, so to speak, most of those are in other places. So they are coming here from other places and for the most part choosing to relocate and stay in Bryson City following their time at Hope Springs. But we have had several people from the area who have been part of our residency, but for the most part it's people from outside of Swain County. Still North Carolinians for the most part. Few have been from other states, but a lot from Gastonia, Shelby area. I used to run a program there in Shelby called Crossroads Rescue Mission. I was the assistant director there for about 6 years before coming up here to open Hope Springs. So a lot of the guys who have come to Hope Springs have been graduates of that program there in Shelby. So, but what we've discovered is that a lot of times people, if they stay in the area where their, for lack of a better phrase, source of temptation was from, it's a lot more difficult for people to maintain their sobriety because they're right there with the old sources of temptations. Unless you're talking about alcohol, which obviously is going to be everywhere no matter where you go. You know, so in those kind of situations, you just have to help people to learn to do life, a life of sobriety without totally escaping your source of temptation, so to speak. If that made sense.
And with that said, when they finish the program here, knowing how hard it is to find a place to stay here, how does that affect it?
Well, I'm telling you, they haven't had too much problem. It's a one-year program. And so because they're active in a local church of their choice, we don't push any specific denomination. They are required church attendance. But as far as where they choose to do that, you know, that's up to their discretion. We haven't had anybody who has had any difficulty actually finding housing if they chose to stay in the area, simply on account of the connections that they're making and the friendships that they're making over their time at Hope Springs. We really stress, for volunteerism as well. You know, we don't want people just to come here and just get a job and make it all about making money. We do emphasize the whole volunteer aspect of recovery is very needed. So in doing things of that nature, they also develop friendships with the area. But like I said, Richard here, he didn't have any problem. Matter of fact, he rents from Pat Monteith, and so he didn't have any problem finding a place. Several other guys are still in the area, and they haven't really had a problem with that either. So, thankfully.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? You have any?
I have one guy that is a tenant of mine that come through their program. So,
I forgot him. That's right. That's right. We just saw him, by the way, just a minute ago.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was working at Anthony's now.
yes, yeah.
Anything else? I think you answered one of my questions. It's a one-year program for residents?
It is, yes, sir, but we don't cut it off at a year. I have currently 2 residents at Hope Springs who have been there just a little longer than a year. One individual, unfortunately, had diabetes and developed a place in his foot where he spent 6 months over here at the Swain County Hospital and was just released maybe 3 weeks ago. So as far as 2022, he spent the better part of the entire year there in the hospital. But as far as his residency, he's been at Hope Springs since February of 2021. So again, once they complete that year, if they're not financially at a place where they're ready to move on, you know, that's not a problem either. We don't have a cutoff period where we say, hey, your year's up, you got to get out of here.
Where does the majority of your funding come from?
Churches and private donors for the most part. If I would, as far as statistically, probably I'd say about 75% comes from churches that support us, and the 25% from private donors. For the first 60 days, guys don't pay rent. We give, for the first 30 days, we don't even let them seek employment. For the first 30 days, they're in class. They just focus on themselves as far as the recovery goes. After 30 days, they have to seek employment. But until they're gainfully employed, we don't make them pay rent or anything. So once they do start paying rent, it is in the amount of $125 per week, which equals up to being $500 a month. But again, if somebody's having a problem finding a job, it's not anything where we've been hanging it over their heads and you got to pay rent, you know. Obviously, we have financial needs that we have to take care of, but we always have the person's best interest as far as their recovery as the primary goal for that. So we're currently trying to expand as far as our church support. And when we first opened it up, I moved in our first guys on March the 10th, 2020, and that was the same week the pandemic started. So originally what I had desired to do was to go out to more churches and raise support, but of course nobody was having church there for about a year on account of the pandemic or having outside services. So we really had to rethink our entire funding, how to go about doing that. So it was a challenge the first year especially, but thankfully we've overcome all those challenges and going on our 3rd year now. So.
Any other questions?
I was going to ask about if you were a nonprofit, but I see on there that it is.
Do what, sir?
I was going to ask if you were a nonprofit.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I saw.
We've been incorporated since
brochure, yeah.
2018. Yeah, again, Pastor Marty Presley at Bryson City Church of God, he's the founder, and he sort of had a desire to do this going back to about 2015. But as far as its nonprofit incorporation, he went about doing that in 2018. And it was another 2 years before he and I touched base and met one another, and before he was able to get all the funding together where we could even have staff and whatnot. So it took a couple years behind the scenes, so to speak, before he was actually able to open it up.
Anything else, John? Well, this is a work session, Pastor Bridges, and so
Yes, sir.
no decisions are made tonight.
Yes, sir.
And I noticed that you're on the 24th, so we actually have 2 meetings before your
Okay.
event anyway. And so this is more of a work session.
Yes, sir.
Where votes won't be taken tonight. But if you do have anything else or anybody else you want to speak to us about it, or?
No, sir. And again, I appreciate your time and for just taking us into consideration for this. I believe that this rally will be very beneficial to the community, and hopefully someone will get the help that they need where this issue of addiction is, at least they get a start on the recovery process. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. All right, our next item of business, item C, Swain County Swain Housing Committee, and Gina or Isaac, I guess I see you stepping forward, so.
Well,
I see
first,
Gina, but Isaac is gonna do it. Okay.
well, I mean, I'm,
Okay,
You go.
thank you. Isaac, floor is yours.
I appreciate it. And, first off, I just want to thank the commissioners for forming this committee and for seeing fit that you put some very qualified, diverse voices on that committee. We all come from different spheres, but we're all affected by affordable housing or the lack thereof here in Swain County. We've got Kathleen Burns, she sits on the Giving Spoon. Myself, I'm a realtor. Gina's in building inspections. We've got people from different walks of life, different sectors of the community, but we're all coming together for this common goal. You all should have our proposed plan. You see on page 1 of that, we sent out this survey. We've identified the 4 different sectors of affordable housing here in Swain County. Obviously, there's homeless, low-income, workforce housing, and then senior housing. And after looking at the surveys of the people in Swain County via the Smoky Mountain Times, we put something on Facebook, an online form, and we've identified that the majority of people that answered that survey wanted us to focus on workforce housing, which, to be honest with you, we had sort of figured that was going to be the case. So we had already started drafting this plan prior to, but this survey confirmed our suspicions. So this workforce housing plan really is aimed to help add more long-term rentals into the rental market here in Swain County. Obviously, we see an influx of short-term rentals right now in Swain County over the last couple years. As the housing market boomed, we saw a lot of folks buying residential homes, turning them into short-term rentals. And to be honest with you, we can't really blame them. If you have an opportunity to make that type of ROI on an investment, I can't really blame you to want to either buy a long-term rental, turn it into a short-term rental, buy a residential home, turn it into a short-term rental, if you're making the type of money that a lot of these folks have been making over the last few years. But what it's done in turn is it's also hurt folks that were looking for housing. My wife and I were looking for housing for a greater part of the last 2 years. We've had our struggles with that. Whether that's buying a house, renting a house, whatever it is, it's been tough. I know Mr. Bridges just spoke about that, and we're very happy that, his folks haven't seen this same housing issue, but I think most likely all of the commissioners have probably been contacted by some people in the community that have been affected by it. So the scope of this plan really is to target vacant homeowners. And so that's people that are not using the homes that they own here in Swain County as their permanent residence. So you can own 2 different homes here in Swain County. You live in one, you rent the other one out. You could be living in Charlotte, you could be living in, South America, and you own a home here in Swain County that's not your permanent residence. We're targeting those folks via this plan that we're proposing. We would be targeting those folks and offering them an incentive to use their home as a long-term rental here in the county. Sort of the last 3 pages of this plan sort of kind of goes into the way we would do that by sending them letters, via emails and different things like that, different forms of communication. We really target in 3 different ways, and one of those ways is to even talk about, when you have a vacant home and then you have someone living in that same home, the rate of deterioration on that household is far less when there's someone living in it. When you have regular temperature, regular airflow inside of a home that's not sitting there just, gathering mold, your investment, your property is better maintained in general. And so, you could be losing upwards of $5,000 to $10,000 a year on your home if a tree falls in the, right over top of the roof and you don't know about it, and then you come up, 8 months later. This plan sort of helps a lot of those vacant homeowners in that case. Now the plan talks about a $2,500 stipend to be used for capital improvements on the property. We have an example of what would and what would not be approved, and we're proposing that the Affordable Housing Committee make the decisions on that. You know, if you need new gravel in your driveway, you know, that would be approved. If you want to put a new chandelier in your dining room, that would not be approved. I mean, just most of that's common sense of what would and would not be approved. We believe that money could come from the Tourism Development Authority, based on what the general statute reads that they can and cannot spend money on. They are allowed to spend up to 1/3 of their funds on capital improvements that are directly affected by tourism. And I would argue that our lack of housing in the county is directly affected by our tourism industry. Be that good or bad, I personally believe it's a good thing, but you know, I love our tourism industry, but there has been some sort of, you know, give and take there with the influx of new tourists coming to our county over the last 5 to 10 years. Other benefits that this would come for the homeowner, obviously they're getting rent each month. What we see, at least for me personally, what I've seen is a lot of people are coming and buying second homes in our community, and you know, they're not using them as vacation rentals, but they bought it so that they could come and enjoy it at their leisure. Your first year, you might come up, you know, 10 times in that first year, 15 times that first year. The second year, you're going to come a little bit less. The third year, you're going to come a little bit less. 6, 7 years down the road, you're coming every 18 months, every 2 years. You're not coming up as often. I think everybody here probably knows of at least one home in the community that is totally vacant. The homeowner doesn't come up that very often at all, and the home is just totally vacant, sitting there, gathering dust, gathering mold, and it could be used as a long-term rental for Swain County citizens, for our workforce. And obviously, you know, I've kind of skipped over this, but workforce housing for us in this case is defined by people that are making at or slightly above the median income in our county. So you're talking about people that work cutting trees, you're talking about nurses, you're talking about police officers, you're talking about teachers. You know, these are people that help keep our community moving, keep our community at the, you know, alive. And we need to make sure that they have the ability to live here so that they can work here. So with this, the commissioners would need to hire a property manager in order to do this. Interest of full discretion, I own a property management company. I will not be submitting a bid because of the conflict of interest there. But the commissioners would need to be hiring a property manager that would be working solely on commission based off of this plan. So that role is not paid for by the commissioners. In that case as well, that would involve a request for proposals from different property managers within the community. And I think we have a plethora of them in Swain County. I think plenty of them would be happy to submit some sort of a proposal. Now what that would look like is obviously they have to give what their commission rate would be. And North Carolina general statutes talk about, and real estate law talks about, all commissions are negotiable. So you know, it's not going to be a set rate. You'll see different rates from different companies that are coming in and doing this. And so the commissioner's job in that case, if this proposal is picked up, will be to act in the best interest of the homeowners in that case. So, you know, if you have one company that's offering a 20% commission rate versus somebody that's offering a 5% commission rate, you know, you would make the best decision for the homeowners in that case. They would also show what their tenant application would look like. It would show what their rental agreement would look like. And then they would need to explain what their eviction process would look like. And then also I would ask anyone what their infrastructure inside their company would look like. You know, for myself, I don't have the same maintenance team as, you know, another group in town might have. Or I may not have the same reception. You know, I know of one company that has 4 receptionists, you know, in their company. And they're the ones that are going to be taking the phone calls when somebody's water heater breaks or something like that. So with that request for proposal, there's going to be a scope of different things that you would be seeing from each one of these companies. And I think you'll kind of see what I'm talking about in terms of that. One thing I do want to just go back to very briefly, though, talking about that $2,500 stipend. That is if the home needs any upgrades to be in a livable condition, or it needs upgrades to be in a good livable condition. Like, for instance, gravel in the driveway. If you can't get up to the house, you can't live in it. But if you don't need any work to be done to your home, or you don't feel like that is, you would sign up for this program, which would be 18 months. And after the end of that 18 months, that $2,500 stipend would become yours with no contingencies whatsoever. It's really just like a thank you for being a part of this program. You know, we were going to give it to you at the beginning. If you don't need it, then you can keep it at the end. And so then if a water heater breaks or something like that, that would be under $2,500 to fix, they could also use that during that period of time. Now, the TDA would also, in this plan, put together I want to say we said $50,000, sort of a general fund sort of for an umbrella policy necessarily. You know, they would look at, you know, if a tenant trashes a home and they get evicted halfway through, you know, there's a little bit of risk there, you know. And so obviously the property owner's taken on a lot of that risk, so is the property manager, but, you know, to be good stewards toward them, if we have this umbrella fund, this policy that the TDA would establish, that would also give these folks a lot more confidence going into the program. And I also want to just point out, since this was ran in the paper a few weeks ago, I received several emails from people that Googled me and found my email address and asked, do you think this policy will go into effect? Because we're thinking about having a long-term rental, or we're thinking about doing a short-term rental, but we want to see, you know, if this plan goes into effect. We believe that we're going to be very successful with this. We believe we're going to have several people that will be a part of this. And that was really my biggest fear from the get-go was, are we going to have two people do this? Are we going to have 75 people do this? I think, you know, with a $150,000 cap, I think that's 50, I believe. 50 people. Yes. So that's 50 households would be kind of the cap there. And so, you know, I met with Commissioner Bushyhead several weeks ago and Mr. King, and we discussed this at length, and one of the things that he said that I really took home was, if we do this and only 2 people come up and do this, that's 2 homes that we've been able to provide to the people of Swain County. That's 2 families that are going to be able to have Christmas in their home. That's 2 families that are going to have a roof over their head. And so I believe with all my heart that if we do this, and, you know, people might consider it a flop if we only have 1 home, if we only have 3 homes, but we will know that we provided housing for those 3 families. This is a very fast plan. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that we focused on was, you know, we have plenty of plans, you know, to help low-income housing or different sorts of housing throughout. You know, we've brought up several ideas. But those are 3 5-year plans, 10-year plans. What are we going to do to help people tomorrow? This plan is fairly quick. You know, we could, if approved by the commissioners at your next meeting, at the meeting after that, possibly, we would be able to put this into effect in the next, probably month and a half thereafter. After you request for proposals, agree on a property manager, we send these letters out, we can have this in effect within 6 weeks. One thing I did want to just hand out real quick. You were given a packet earlier that talks about the specific pricing model that we would be using on this. So when homeowners buy into this program, they're buying into the pricing model as well. So, you know, we could do this and have 50 new homes in the community, but what good is that if they say, well, we want $2,000 a month for our 1-bed, 1-bath, you know, studio apartment? It doesn't do us any good at all. So this specific pricing model is really based on HUD pricing models, but a little bit more than that. And I'll just tell you, you've probably seen the HUD pricing model for Swain County. As a realtor, I'm pretty harshly disagree with their model. And the reason why is, they're saying that a 3-bedroom home should cost the same, regardless of how many bathrooms, regardless of how big the house is, regardless of anything. So we could do a price per square foot analysis. That's going to be really difficult to really hone that in. What we've done here instead is decide on a pricing model for each bedroom and each bathroom that a home might have. So a 3-bed, 1-bath home is not the same price per month as a 3-bed, 3-bath home. And so you see right up here, we've changed the numbers that are on the screen just a little bit. I think Gina may have put plus $100 on that. Did we agree on 50 or 100 or?
Well, that was the original one that we talked about in the meeting, and I dropped it off with Cindy just a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So that's why that looks like that and not like yours.
Okay. Well, that's totally fine. But a 3-bed, 2-bath in this case would be $925 a month. Each additional bathroom is $50 more than the first one. So 1-bed, 1-bath would be at $625 per month, which in my opinion is affordable. You've tasked us with finding affordable housing. I think that's fairly affordable. So as we look, farther down the road, this is obviously a pilot model. This has never been done before. We could fall flat on our face. We could be incredibly successful with this and take it to other counties as well. But I'm also here to answer any questions that you may have. So I'll do that.
Any questions? Bill?
Mr. Chair, I got one thing about the TDA thing. We've been arguing how to use the TDA money for a long time, and we have not been able to use it the way you're talking about, not yet. Not one time, have we, Mr. King? Because tourism affects us with lots of other issues also. I do agree, this is strictly caused, I believe, by going all in for tourism, and the TDA helped create this by spending 2/3 of that money advertising, which we're trying to get that law changed, I believe, still, aren't we, Mr. King? Because that's a lot of money going strictly for advertising.
Sure.
So if we can't even come together on what we can spend that money on, then we can't do this at all, can we?
No, and I know, the county knows this, but, so, we can only make requests to TDA. We don't manage, what they spend, so it'll be them approving it. We have made requests over the years, for increased sanitation, during like even events. We've been denied on increased salary for like, sheriff's department, other public safety, not approved. So, I don't know. It's kind of, we're waiting on something that may not be approved.
Right.
On the 50,000, so, you can approve the program. But
Well, and
not
it's
necessarily-
even more than 50, to be entirely honest, because it also, the $2,500 stipend, which would be 150,000. So we would really be asking for 200,000.
Yeah.
And the manager would work strictly off of the
Off the commission.
commission.
So in theory, if I said that I would do it for 10% commission and the $625 a month, then my cut on that would be $62.50 per month. Which, again, all commissions are negotiable. So, that number might be 0.5%, it may be 20%, but it could fluctuate.
More than likely, it'll be on the higher end, though, would you think?
I can tell you, for my company, when I have a long-term rental person that would come in, I would offer 10% commission. Now, and that's, obviously it's my company, so it's my policy to make that decision. But with that said, if I am a property manager, if I were submitting a proposal here, which I am not because of the conflict, if I were, I would look at the volume of how many rentals that I would be getting, and then I would offer a lower percentage based on the number of potential rentals that we would be taking on. Now, I may,
How many total surveys did you have?
We received 432 surveys.
That's mixed online and,
Right, it was,
write-ins from the paper.
yes. Many more online than were, submitted, but.
And the first question that was on that survey was, are you a citizen of Swain County? Because obviously when you put something on the internet, people from, Texas could be answering that, so. I mean, clearly we can't track that entirely, but, we know that they came from Swain County. At least the vast majority of them did.
So the main goal in this whole proposal is strictly for workforce housing, which I am glad to see it's not just workforce housing for government workers, because that's how it started out. Usually when you talk about workforce housing, that's the first thing,
We
teachers,
term the
police.
workforce as everybody who is working in this community, who makes our community go round. Whether it be the gas station attendant, or the grocery store clerk, or, the teacher, or the policeman, everybody there who is looking for housing, or who needs long-term housing, that makes our community go round.
Which really,
Let me interrupt just a minute. I'm sorry. Gina, would you mind just joining Isaac at the front? And the reason we're doing that, we can hear you perfectly, but it may not go out to everybody else can hear you as well as we can. So if you guys will just use the mic. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt.
that's all right, Mr. Chair, or Mr. Vice Chair. But anyway, another thing with the workforce, because I don't just see it as just people working in this community, because people who live here and have to work off are contributing to this community. And one of the major issues I wanted to be pointed out in this whole process was not necessarily that we can fix the problem, because I don't believe we can. Even with this, we can't. And we're still gonna bring more people here. And that's, to me, part of the problem. Because once you start this program, you're gonna have more people trying, and you already have people here who can't find housing. You already have people here who's looking in the future. When I graduate school, I'm more than likely gonna have to leave here.
Yeah, and that's a problem for our
That's-
kids today. They can't move out of mom and dad's house because there's not an affordable place around here for them to live.
Right. That's right.
So
And it's
they do
going,
have to go away.
and it's going to,
Or they still live at home with their parents.
and it's going to keep on going that way, I'm afraid. I mean, I may be wrong, but we got the park, we got all the stuff that everybody comes here to enjoy, and we have paid for them to come here. We have done this to ourselves. This might be a start to try to help some people. It might help some people. It's still not gonna help other people, and it's gonna help other people from away from here move here, maybe. Maybe not, I don't know.
And I do need to just mention, so any property manager that does submit a proposal would need to be a licensed real estate agent in the state of North Carolina. And would need to most likely be a true company. It would really need to, they would need to be incorporated with an LLC, they would need to be a licensed real estate firm in the state of North Carolina, because all of this money would be held in a trust account. So the legality of this, it would need to be an actual property manager. Now, I can tell you as a realtor, as a real estate broker in North Carolina, I cannot discriminate on tenants. So, that is a big point that they really hit home, and I think for good reason, but, they certainly hit that home with us, that we cannot discriminate on who we would choose for this position, or for tenancy. But now, at the same time, I fully agree with, we've got, I would rather that these houses go to a teacher who's having to live in a different county, who wants to live here in Swain County so that they don't have to, Tommy Dills told us a story the other day about a teacher that drives all the way from Cullowhee. They stay in student housing, even though they're not a student at Western Carolina, but they stay in student housing because that's the only place they could find to be able to work here at one of our elementary schools. In the meantime, as they drive here, they pass 3 different school districts that pay more than Swain County does to be able to work here in Swain County, because they love it and they want to help our community grow. If that teacher could live same time, we can't discriminate against someone who is wanting to come in and be a plumber brand new to the county. You know, we can't discriminate on that at all. But I just want to make sure that I point that out, because that's something that the real estate commission is very, very strict on.
And after our one meeting with the housing committee, I mean, and I spoke to Mr. Bartlett after that meeting. I called him and spoke to him because I know he's talking about going to Raleigh and going to Washington and doing all. But why can't some of these people help? I mean, if they really want to, they can help on their own, can they not?
We do have one person that has been in talks with us, and after I brought the situation directly to him, and we had several discussions about it, he has purchased some property right close, walking distance to town, and he is going to renovate that and make it into affordable housing. It's only 4 units, but again, it's a start somewhere. And he has heard our plight, and he is sympathetic.
But I can also point out, Julia Hunt was on our committee, and she unfortunately had to resign from the committee due to personal matters. When that position opened up, I started making some phone calls to other real estate brokers that I knew of, because I felt like, you know, I'm a real estate broker, but I don't have all the opinion of every real estate broker out there. And to me, I think that we see the problem every day in a different light than other people do. I called 7 different people, and not a single person was willing to come and help us. So I think it's one of those things, again, and kudos to all of you for being on the board of commissioners, because you see a need in the community and then you go and fill that need. You run for office, you do that. That's remarkable that people are doing it. You know, we saw the need for affordable housing and we stepped forward to help with that. But a lot of people will see that need and then just never do anything with it. And that's what we found here recently. That's what I found when I called 7 different agents. 2 of them told me that they were that they were very invested in affordable housing. I said, well, would you like to join our committee? No. Don't have time.
Well, how did the meeting go the other day with the,
I mean, I thought it went well. We had very good talking points amongst everybody, and different ideas from different walks of life. We do have one person who has property and availability, but he doesn't have the funds, and he doesn't have a sewer connection yet, which we know that sewer is about 2 years out for anything there. He doesn't have enough property to actually put a septic tank on, so we'd have to wait for sewer. But, you know, putting some people together, I think that they're talking amongst themselves, and again, one of those people is very invested in trying to do something, and it's just gonna take a little bit of time for all their stuff to work out, I think. But they are willing to work with us in the future for whatever we might could come up with together.
but those people, they're not, it's just vacant property, they just have the idea? Or is it something that from what I've talked around to people, and most of the people I talk to, lots of them is local people.
Yep.
Lots of them are here, lots of them, even some of them have vacant trailers and stuff, but there's reasons because of that. There's reasons that cause them to have vacant trailers and not want to rent, not to do HUD housing,
Right.
not to do anything, because of what they had to go through to get people. I had a long talk the other day with a man who has 3 empty trailers right now. He will not rent any of them out because it took as he quoted, told me it was ridiculous what he had to go through to remove somebody that was trashing his place. That's what he told
And
me.
part of that, I think that, you know, a lot of people had really super bad experiences during the COVID when, you know, people were prevented from evicting anybody. And I mean, if I had been a landlord during that time and my tenants weren't paying and trashing my place, I would have a very bitter taste in my mouth as well. I think we're not under that any longer. Is that correct? We're not under those rules any longer. So, I mean, it's a little bit different time period now, but I mean, I totally get
Well, even with those people who have property, isn't there government programs already that help people want to do this?
There's some USDA, I think it's Title VIII funding available, but a lot of times, there's so much guidelines with that, and you gotta keep, I think they keep in the program for, what, I think 15 years at least, maybe 25. So there's a lot of loopholes they have to go through in order to get that, and then that's all regulated by the US government, and there's a lot of red tape.
And the people, I don't think they wanna be committed to it for, like saying, 25 years. I mean, they're willing to build some townhomes or some, small apartments, like, 2 3s and 2 2s in a, 4 square kind of deal, like that, just hither and yon. But again, anything is better than nothing, which is what we have right now.
Well,
So what,
anything don't always mean it's better than nothing. I mean, that sounds good,
How
but
about
that don't,
something is better
well,
than nothing?
even that may not be.
so this is a pretty good sizable program. I'm just gonna ask this question, you can tell me that it's not feasible to do or not. Can we narrow this program down? Do like a pilot program, maybe identify just a couple houses. Test the water, see what it looks like before you launch it out into 50, and make that available.
Yeah, I think that's certainly, on the table there. I would, the only pushback I would give to that at all would be, we may end up with 50, we may end up with 5.
Right.
If we start it with 5, we'll get 5.
But if you started with 5 and it worked, then you could sell that to 45 more.
But
That's
the
kinda what I was
only other thing I'd say to that is, with this money, we're setting it aside, we're not using it. If we end up with 5 and we have $125,000 left.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we don't get that much money. Let's start with a lower amount of money.
So if we start with 5, and like I said, 5 is better than what we have, which is 0.
Start there, figure out what it's gonna cost to do the 5. Get that, make sure it's kinda working pretty good. And then you can take that 5 and you sell those 5, you sell that to 45 more if you want 50. And you say, hey, look, we got these 5, they're working like this is how it works, and you've got good evidence that this is gonna work. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
the other thing though is it doesn't, that money would not, you're not spending that money just because you set it aside.
Right,
So
Yeah.
if you set aside, 150 and you only use 120, you haven't lost 120, you just set it aside and then it goes back into your general fund
Yeah.
at the end of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I like what you're saying, though, start with 5, identify 5 properties.
yeah, identify specific 5 properties and then let, just like I said, just start there and that'd be kind of your incubator, see what, that way before you get 50 blown out, that you figure out 5 problems that you have here, 10 some problems, you get that worked out before you launch it big. So,
I mean, 50 was just
I know, it's a great number, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think none of us we're all
No,
very
it's a great number,
That's
but,
not gonna happen,
but what happens if you get 50 all of a sudden and you really don't have the kinks worked out, and we're trying to figure this thing out,
that's fair.
so.
Let me bring it to our county manager.
Yeah, I just had one question, and kind of, after that meeting the other day, it kind of resonated with me a little bit. And since it came from a realtor, actually, so the liability piece. And so that's one thing, I would caution the board on, at least really getting an attorney's opinion
yes.
on, because anybody can sue for anything, and they're gonna go after if there's a house fire, if something's wrong, if somebody dies in the house or whatever. They're gonna sue everybody and anybody, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
So if you endorse a program and if you are a contributor to this homeowner and something does happen, I would suspect the county will be named in a lawsuit.
It's entirely fair. I think in that case, a liability insurance policy would certainly not hurt, from the TDA and from the Board of Commissioners. And I think part of the request for proposal should include what is your liability policy. Because if it's anything short of, $2 to $5 million, I probably would question that and ask it to be raised.
But yeah, I mean, again, I'm sorry to hear what you're saying, and it is something that definitely needs an attorney, question about that.
I guess my other thought, when I was running everything the other day, why don't you, would there be a possibility just to say, okay, we've got 4 property managers, don't care about the rate, doesn't matter. If you're a part of the program, go to one of these 4, whichever one you want to. Because it's gonna be them paying it anyway.
Yep.
At the end of the day, and say these are the rates you have to choose. Then once that happens and they go through the program with that property manager, then the property manager can come to us and say, okay, well, they've fulfilled this, here's your contract, can I have the $2,500 or whatever? Let it go through them, and that way the county's kind of separate. Yeah. I don't know, it's just a thought, so. I don't know how that'd work.
Mr. King, with as many property managers and stuff as we got in this county right now, and most people who own a second home here can afford $2,500. And the ones that I'm more worried about is the ones who want to stay here, who might not be able to stay here. But lots of the homes, these second homes and stuff, lots of them aren't even, lots of them might be in developments and stuff like that, not even something that,
Well, and, yeah, we're gonna be targeting really all folks who are absentee owners is what we call them.
which with all these managers now, why don't they have a meeting and get together and try to help the community on their own?
I mean, if you have any ideas,
I have lots of ideas. I mean, they can get together and have a meeting and say, listen, we've pushed the real estate thing all in the name of money and we've helped cause this problem, so let's step back and see if we can help the community that we're doing this to.
And I don't necessarily think that the realtors caused the housing boom that was nationwide.
I don't think they caused it, but I think certain people took full advantage of it, is what I'm saying. And I think if we do that and we don't think about the consequences until now, and then now we're reliant on the government to step in and incentivize people who has more money than lots of other people, than the people getting pushed out to do a program.
I mean, I'll say this, I've certainly had a great year in real estate, one of the top brokers in Swain County. I joined the commission, this board, to help. I'm not looking for the government to help fix the problem. I'm actively taking a step to be part of the help here. Obviously, we've tried, other people to be on this board. They chose not to. So, I mean, I also don't think that a meeting of the property managers would do really any good, because there's not much that we can do. We are bound by the North Carolina Real Estate Commission to act on the best behalf of the clients, which homeowners, buyers, sellers, we're bound by law to act on the best behalf of those folks. A meeting of the property managers in the county, it's not gonna do much good, to be honest with you. And there's really nothing that we could do.
But if there was a letter sent out saying, we need affordable housing, and we've identified your property as a property that could potentially be a long-term rental for someone in our community, and then go through a property management thing, contact this property management person, one of these 3, and then that would bring them into the loop without them going out and seeking someone. It's the housing committee who is seeking out the people to participate, which would encompass your idea and our idea and your idea.
Any other questions? We've heard a lot of good ideas and some different contributions to thought here. Anything else we need to cover on that for right now? And you guys are always available for any of our phone calls or anything. And maybe we can ask Mr. King to look into some of our questions about legalities, and lawsuits, responsibilities, and some of that. We don't want to enter into anything that jeopardizes us financially. Of course, you wouldn't want us to either, so.
I think we would probably be named in that as well.
Right.
we certainly want to make sure that we have our I's dotted and T's crossed.
Mr. Vice Chair, I definitely want Mr. King to check back over the TDA laws again and see if we can,
So the problem is with the TDA, there's really only one lawsuit in North Carolina, and I think it was New Hanover County. New Hanover County, I think, sued the TDA, or maybe it was the association. There's a housing association in New Hanover County that sued the TDA there for investing in a YMCA, which is nowhere near the coast, which was a major impact for tourism. It was on the coast of New Hanover. And I think that's the only case law. So everything else is pretty much wide open. And that's what Chris McLaughlin with the Institute of Government has said. It's wide open. They can do pretty much, as long as you can kind of tie it to an impact, just like we've tied it to an impact before.
that's
With
what
our
I
sheriff's
was
office
about
and
to
everything
say.
else.
We have definitely.
We can't call it an impact because it's illegal in North Carolina to have impact fees. This is not an impact fee, it's an impact because of something, so we're gonna give you our appropriation. So it's really an appropriation from another quasi-governmental entity which y'all created through the TDA. And so that organization's given money for an impact that they have contributed to. And it's the same way, it's that same thing. I mean, what they're asking for. And really, if you look at it from their standpoint, on going back to some of the conversations we've had, what the money would do is actually get rid of certain properties that weren't profitable, meaning people weren't staying there for some reason. Either they're not really an overnight rental, people's trying to make them into one, or whatever, which causes less for people, because if they get a bad, experience, they're not going to come back to Swain County, so technically they're losing money, right? I mean, if you look at all those components together, I think the TDA should, and look at an initiative like this, or at least put money towards something like this. But, it's all up to them. It's just like, I still think that they can invest in anything we've asked for.
The infrastructure, the trash, even the cops, the number of cops we have, the number of other programs that we have that's affected by the number of people who come
There
here.
is no case law, and so that's what the Institute of Government has said. If there's no case law, then they can, as long as there's a tie to tourism, which everything we do is a tie to tourism.
And if I'm not mistaken, when you all brought the idea of impact fees to the TDA, their argument back was this is not for capital improvements or capital expenditures. This is, in theory, I guess, actually used for capital expenditures. If you have a double wide manufactured home and it needs skirting around the bottom for it to be used as a long-term rental, that is a capital expenditure by law. So, the law certainly reads in our favor in this case that the TDA could do this. There's really, I would like to hear an argument against it from the TDA. And we want to present this to the TDA so they can have the opportunity to, see this and possibly see it in action even with the pilot program, and then, move forward with it. I will say that we had planned on doing that, and then, it was, our plan was made public, maybe just a little bit quicker than we would like to, and so, it was, the TDA probably found out about it quicker than we would have liked it.
All right, gentlemen, how do we want to proceed? Do you want to ask Mr. King to test the waters on TDA movement or anything? What are your thoughts? What do we want to do? We don't have to make decisions now. I just want everybody to be thinking about it, of course.
And is there any route that we need to go, another route that we need to go?
Well, I would say that somebody needs to talk to TDA pretty much and see if this is something that they would even entertain. And if it's not, then we know to find a different route and not mess with that.
You know when the next TDA meeting is?
No, I have to look into it.
Well, we will have a representative at the next TDA meeting, and we will present it, whether that's myself, Gina, whether it's Karen Proctor or someone else, we'll present it to them and kind of see how that goes.
Actually, I believe that the committee needs to do that. And any other thing that we have questions on about any of it, go to them and ask them to check into it. Definitely check into the managers about what they would have to manage. I mean, I still don't, none of this is still gonna solve the problem that I wanted to point out in this whole thing. That there's people gonna get pushed out no matter what. And money is the controlling factor of it. And that was my main issue. And
Sounds like our next step. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
but this is a starting point, I guess, to keep looking at the plan, but thank you.
Anything else? Thank you guys very much, and we will try to discuss a lot of this with ourselves and with you guys as well.
Oh, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, I do have one more thing. We would like to have more surveys also, because I know of other decisions we made. We've really pushed to see how many people we can get to respond, and 432 is a very low number.
It is. And, I mean, we'll try it again, we'll try another push for it.
I would just say, we had a higher percentage of people take this survey than voted in the last primary election. So.
I'm not arguing numbers and that stuff, but I'm saying, before we voted,
It's a decently high enough number.
before we voted on
Kinda brings
lots
it
of
home.
things, we've actually said, we need 1,000 people to sign a petition to do something. So that's what I'm saying. Before we set a precedent that this is a low number to us.
Thank you guys very much. All right, that brings us to county manager's report, Mr. King.
I'll start off. I just had this thing, just read it at your convenience. I told you I'd have you something. This is kind of hot off the press, so it changes, and it is about a retention bonus program. You know, we can do it at a later date, but just take it home and look at it. At the next meeting in September, the sheriff wanted to talk again, or actually get approval for his department or for the county to manage the CAM program, which is the camera, or I guess it's the monitor for the DUI and DWI, people that have been convicted of that or awaiting trial, I think is what it was. And really, at this point, and Kim and I talked about it, at this point, it's not costing the county a dime for, I think, 2 years. Then after that, if we want to continue, then of course they're gonna want funding from somewhere. And so if it's in place, I suspect that you might get a request at some point. But at this point, there's no match dollar. The county don't have to match it. It's all 100% funded. We just have to be the fiduciary agent to go through the process. So, and he'll be here next month to kind of go through that. I just don't want to tell you it probably will be on the agenda. But like I said, right now it's no county money, but in the future, when it runs out, there may be a request. With that said, there were 2 other programs that were mentioned, or actually probably just one, which is CRAVE, which is courtroom audio and visual equipment, CRAVE, which is going to be a program. They're basically redoing all of the courtrooms, both courtrooms we've got, and so we're helping them with putting in all the cabling. That was our portion, is helping with low voltage cabling, audio cabling, stuff like that. So we'll purchase that cabling. Our staff will put that in place based on their layout. And I think that was what he was talking about last time was, and this is all, of course, federal and state funded, the rest of the equipment part, but all we're responsible for is the cabling. WAVE which is something, another program. You got Crave and Wave. And Wave is Wi-Fi, audio-visual equipment. So they're gonna put also radios like we have here, right there. That's a radio. And so basically it creates a Wi-Fi signal inside the courtroom and that sort of thing. So we also have to pull wire for that. And that's I think there's gonna be 9 radios in the courthouse and this is all gonna be for court and for law enforcement. They're gonna do a lot of the 96-hour or 96-hour hearings virtually now, so they don't have to pull a prisoner out of the jail. It can be all instantaneous because they're putting the same radio out at the jail. They're also putting audio-visual equipment out there.
Mr. King,
Mm-hmm.
is this gonna help with the speed up some processes in court and hearings and?
I would hope so. I mean, I think that's their goal, it seems like, to try to get, all this upgraded, where there could be possibly some virtual hearings where a judge is sitting somewhere else and, not even in the county. And so I think that's where it's going to go to eventually because there's just so many cases being heard. But I think it's trying to get all the, the laws set to let it take place. Right now, I think they've only got authority to do like the 96-hour hearings on a video. But I think eventually, it might come down to video everywhere. So, but anyway, all of that's covered except for the cabling, and our folks is time putting it in. So we're working with them on that. It will cost some money, but there's monies available inside the data processing budget and the courtroom budget that we can do it without a budget amendment. So it'll cost about $4,000 worth of cabling. So you got a couple emails, I think, from Ben about a couple things. One, a resolution, which will be on the agenda for September, a request from the Eastern Mayor Cherokee for renaming Cleveland's Dome. So give you a copy of that. And he wants that on the agenda in September. I was going to just kind of mention that. The other one, the Whittier School property, kind of want to put a letter together, I guess between the 3 entities that kind of work on this. Basically, your job would be to send in a resolution to DOT abandoning a certain strip. That's really the job of Swain County. EDCI, though, has to go through, design phase, working with DOT on all that stuff. So I'm trying to outline all the little bits and pieces and then have everybody sign it from when we were up there at a meeting. So you'll see that letter coming around probably in the next couple of weeks. I've reached out to Chris Lee, and he's given me some pointer of what they need. But really, at the end of the day, what y'all are saying is if a resolution comes before you based on the design and DOT's wishes and EBCI's wishes, then you would present it to the State Highway Transportation Committee in Raleigh, or the State Highway Committee, I guess. So anyway, I'll get that. We'll get that going. Let's see. I think that's about it that I've got tonight.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll just move on then. Mr. Barton, I'll start from my left to you if you want to have a commissioner's report.
The only report I had several conversations with some people who have empty trailers, and they expressed that if there's any way that the laws could be changed, and I'm pretty sure they're state laws, aren't they? I told them I don't think they're going to change them anytime soon, but they expressed their concern about the affordable housing, but not in the sense of what the committee has brought to us about the second homeowners like that, as much as affordable housing as projects. And one man wanted to know if we were going to take their property if he wasn't using it, and I told him, no, I didn't think we we're gonna do nothing like that, but I know that there are concerns with the affordable housing thing, and we need to not rush anything. We definitely need to check it out and think about it. But it was not in the scope of necessarily the workforce housing as much as I guess more like the HUD and stuff, and the low-income housing. Besides that, I didn't make it to the fair. I hope some of you guys did. I didn't get a chance to go. But that is all my report.
All right, thank you, sir. I'll just go ahead and give my report, and we'll keep moving around the room then. On Tuesday, August 16th at 8 o'clock, I went to the housing meeting that we spoke about there at the Lance Creek Cabins. Pretty good attendance, some information given. I think the word's getting out there that we're looking for some help of those who can help. I think it's starting to make some impact. I think it's starting to get out there. Wednesday, August 17th at 10 o'clock, I attended a core meeting at the Family Resources Building. And then later on that same afternoon, went to a landlord town hall meeting, HUD meeting, 4 o'clock at Fuller's Farmhouse. On Saturday, I did go up to the agricultural fair for an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes or so. And then on Monday, August 22nd, at 11 o'clock, met over at the library with the Secretary of State, Elaine Marshall, and some of her plans. There was a bunch of business people there, and meeting with some of her plans to promote and help small businesses. So that's what I report, gentlemen. I'll go to you, Mr. Siegel.
I done the same thing, Roger. Went to that HUD housing town hall meeting. It was a pretty good meeting, pretty informative. Wasn't a whole lot of people showed up, but there were some people there that asking questions. I think HUD, there's a lot of people don't know what HUD is, and I think some of the questions got answered during that meeting was really good. Then I went to the agricultural fair. I got there about 10, left about 12. Really good turnout when I was there. I think it went real exceptionally well. Very well organized. Lots of good stuff going on. So I think that's one of the things that we really need to pour into to make sure that everybody keeps going, and we appreciate the people that put it together. Show our appreciation because they did a lot of hard work to get that going. So that's it.
I had a broadband meeting Tuesday, and just still, we decided they were going to present at our meeting tonight, but they've put it off, still hoping to wait till the next meeting to hear something back from the Great Grant. Leonard assures us it's coming. It's just, they're behind on their getting all this out. It's supposed to have been out several weeks ago, but anyway, tentatively, I think we're going to try to get in on our next meeting. If not, they're going to put it off until that grant does come in, because they want to share that when it comes in and share some stuff. Just what Roger said, went to that housing committee meeting, was there. It was good. I was surprised at the attendance that early in the morning, especially, and way down at the cabin, but it was good. There was a bigger crowd there than I thought, and had a good variety of people. You had investors, you had builders, you had people in the real estate market. It was a good group. There's a lot of thought, a lot of good ideas thrown around. Got ideas on the builders, why they, when you talk about affordable housing, they had a couple guys from here that are building units in Asheville. We're talking about affordable housing, but for them, for most of the builders, it's hard for you to get a builder to take it on, because they can't make any money on it. Is the bottom line, is what I heard. If you go into affordable housing, everything's limited when they can go out and build something custom. It just doesn't, it's just like a realtor, unless somebody is in the position to do that and wants to do it for people. It's hard to get people that have started a business and are living off of that business. It's hard to get them to change that, is the way I kind of understood some of that. It was a good meeting. and also attended with Roger that, and I thought that was a good meeting for the business owners, with the Secretary of State. Give them a lot of ideas and resources to help small businesses get started and get them going. I thought it was a good meeting, but that's about it.
Thank you, sir. All right, do we have any informal discussion that we want?
Got one thing real quick.
Okay.
Just want to give out a shout out to Stanley Smith, one of our employees. He kind of went above and beyond the call of duty or his job, and he helped somebody with to the emergency room with a double broke ankle, or broke leg actually. And so it was a kind of a scary experience for him, but I got commented several times on that, saying that he had kind of went above and beyond. So just want to give a shout out to him.
Was it another employee of ours?
No, it was a taxpayer. He's the only one there. He's picking up a can up at the event park, and person had fallen off the back of a truck and got his leg hung, so he's like hanging upside down, literally. If he hadn't been there, it'd been pretty bad. So
At the event park?
yeah. So
Well, yeah, certainly a shout out there.
yep.
Yep. Good job.
I got a question. I had somebody ask me about the fair, and I didn't go. I went last year, but didn't get to go to this one. And was asking me why they have political booths at the fair, and want to know why the county couldn't regulate that. That they didn't see that was a place, and they wouldn't just talk about one party. They said, why is that open for political groups to set up? And I didn't know, is it? There's no,
Somebody had mentioned that to me as well, and to be honest with you, I don't know. I didn't know what happened. I wasn't there.
but for me, I think that's not a play. I think, that's open to the whole county. I understand that. It's free speech type thing, but I think they can regulate what type of, it seems like they should be able to regulate what type of offerings they have people to set up and to do things. And that just, I don't know, me, it's something that ought to be able to stay out of the county fair.
We got them at all of our events, I'm pretty sure. Every
They probably
4th of July.
I'd never thought of
every,
it. Somebody asked
every
me why.
event you go to, I think we have
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that up there represents more the county. The 4th of July is downtown. I mean, that is, it's county property, and it's a county agricultural event. So I don't know. It'd be really good if they could if there's any way they could keep that out of it. And I'm saying for any part, I'm not representing one or the other. I don't care. It just seemed to me like that'd be a good place for that to just not exist for one day. We face enough of it. And everything else we do, it'd be good for people to be able to go enjoy that and not have to walk by and listen to some of that stuff from either, I don't care where you're from, over here. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
And I didn't know how to answer that question because I really didn't know.
Yeah. I had a comment, and I did speak to Mr. King about it. I don't know what we do about it exactly. I really don't. Maybe we can just look into curtailing it a little bit, but you start running into all these issues about what people can and can't do sometimes, but it would, I agree with you 100%, Mr. Burns. It'd be nice to be able to go somewhere that didn't have politics beating me over the head. It really would. Don't know how we stop that or what we can do about it, but boy, it would be nice. I think we could all agree with that. Anything else? I don't think we have any public comment because there's no one in the audience. And then I looked at I think he had signed up, but he was actually on the agenda. So no public comment, none. I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Siegel. I'm sure there's no discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand. That pass unanimous. We're adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. get in touch with that guy.